50, check on the calculator 25 times. Let's try 3. Can 3 go into 50 without leaving a remainder? No. All right, so 3 will leave a remainder. So 3 is not a factor. What about 4? Let's try 4. Can 4 go into 50 without leaving a remainder? Again, we can see that that won't be the case. 4 will leave a remainder, so it's not a factor. But what about 5? If we divide 50 by 5, yes, we get 10. So 5 can go into 50, hence it's a factor. All right, you see how this goes? You can basically divide the number by the particular, you can divide the factor by the particular number if you want to check if that number is a factor or not. Okay, so the factors of 50 would therefore be 1 goes into 50 times, 2 goes into 50 25 times, 5 goes into 50 10 times, 10 goes into 55 times, 25 goes into 50 twice, 50 goes into itself once. Okay, and then of course that's we follow the same process for 120. These are all numbers that could go into 120 without leaving a remainder. Okay, so now that we've looked at what factors are, we want to then answer the second part of the question. The second part of the question is asking you, just look at that, to then, once you've listed the factors, and then you must find the highest common factor, the HCF, highest common factor. All right, so let's look at that. We could see that, of course, they have 1 in common. They also have 2 in common. They also have 5 in common. And then they have 10 in common. But after 10, they've got nothing else in common. They don't have 25 in common. They don't have 50 in common. So that means that 10 is basically the highest that they have in common. Okay, so that is our highest common factor. Our HCF is 10. All right, moving on. Okay, we've explained what prime numbers or prime factors are. So for this part, we then want to use those prime numbers to then find, we want to find the prime factors of 200. So let's do this. Very easy. Could 200 be divided by 2, the first prime factor? Yes. If you divide 200 by 2, you get 100. Could 100 be divided by 2, the first prime factor? Yes. If you divide 100 by 2, you get 50. Could 50 be divided by 2? Yes. If you divide 50 by 2, you get 25. Could 25 be divided by 2, the first prime factor? No, it will leave a remainder. Could it be divided by 3, the next prime factor? No, but it can be divided by 5. Okay, so we divide 25 by 5 to get 5. And of course, if you divide 5 by itself, that will give you 1. Okay, so that means the prime factors of 200 are these factors here on the left. So it would be, okay, let's look at that. So it would be 2 times 2 times 2 times 5 times 5. Okay, and of course, if we wanted to write it the 2's in exponential form, we want 3 of them, so it could be 2 to the power of 3. And 5's, we've got 2 of them, so that's 5 squared. Okay, so that is how you would write 200 as a product of its prime factors. Okay, let's move on. Multiples. Now multiples are easy. We've looked at them before when we were rounding off. Multiples of 100, very easy. We must list multiples of 100. So you keep adding 100 to itself. So multiples of 100 would be 100, So multiples of 100 would be 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, and so forth. Okay, and multiples of 250, keep adding 250, so you get 500, 750, 1000, 1250. I think we could see how this goes. Okay, so if we go to the second part of the question, where we are asked to find, we've done the first part. We've listed multiples of both 100 and 250. Now the next part of the question asks you to find the lowest common multiple, LCM. What is the lowest common multiple? Okay, so if we look at this, we can see that they have 500 in common. They both have 500. They also have 1000 in common. All right, I'm sure if we wrote down more numbers, we would find other numbers that they might have in common. But for this question, we want the lowest that they have in common. And of course, 500 is the lowest that they have in common. All right, so if we look at 100 and 250, 500 is the lowest